Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, aka the Going North Podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we got one heck of a super special awesome human for you today, because this podcast likes to feature ordinary humans doing extraordinary things while still being extraordinary in the process. And today's guest in particular, my goodness, like two-time TEDx speaker who has spent his career speaking on the behalf of others. And my man is a lawyer, advocate, and a fraternity alum who wonderfully produced a wonderful book that's going to be the first of a series, folks. And he is also a degree holder indeed, because my man holds his master's in communication from Bellarmine University, as well as his Juris Doctorate from the University of Louisville. And he's also the founder of Greek Law, which is a sexual assault prevention and consent program for fraternity and sorority chapters. So let's give it up for the double Dr. J himself, James J. Wilkerson. How you doing today, Dr. J?
Hey, that's an introduction, man. Like, I need you with me everywhere I go to give that introduction. I'm doing good. Hanging in there.
That's right, hanging in there like a clothes hanger, baby. That's right.
Yes,
There's
sir.
Dr. J, but there's Dr. Double J, baby.
Yes, sir. Two is better than one.
That's right, that twin action. Indeed. So my goodness, man. You know, no matter how good and how long certain introductions can be, there's always cavities I miss of mine. Feeling anything I may have missed about you, my man?
My wife tells me that, like, Joey, you need to brag on yourself some more. You too modest, you too humble. You got to brag on yourself. We live in Louisville. It's the home of Muhammad Ali. You got to brag on yourself a little bit more. So I guess if I got to brag, no, I was recently named one of Louisville Business First 40 under 40 for this year. So that's definitely some good company to be in, is to be on that 40 under 40 list. And actually, just about a week or so ago, one of our newspapers called the Louisville Eccentric Observer, the Leo for short, put out its 2021 Reader's Choice Awards, and I was voted best local writer here in the city as well. So I'll throw those in there. I guess they might mean something to somebody.
Don't worry, that means something to somebody, not just you and the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of folks are going to be hearing your voices over the next few decades, man. Because my goodness, man, 40 under 40, how many folks who get in the entrepreneurial space wishes they could be on that coveted list? Heck, you know how many folks wish they were still under 40?
Right? Hey, I'm 38, so I tell people I barely made it. It was down to the wire, but I got in there. So I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, amen to that. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So my goodness. So with all these wonderful accolades you've acquired and all the stuff that you're still doing, because to be honest, you probably haven't even really hit your stride yet. You're still just got your foot on the gas. Just start really getting your foot on the gas. So my goodness, man. So with the wonderful work that you're doing, you're actually taking like the whole topic of really sexual assault into a different realm that's not really talked about a lot, and that's really in the colleges and the sororities. Like, is like what inspired you to go that route with everything with this, man?
Well, I really got into this. 2015 is when I started law school, and anyone that's ever gone through law school on their way to be a lawyer or an attorney, they'll tell you that the top question that you were asked all 3 years is, yo, what type of law are you going to practice, man? Like, what type of law are you going into? And for me, I learned pretty early that sexual misconduct and sex crimes, that was the part of the law that I was the most interested in. I've always been one that has, thought to like, let me create my own path though, let me create, yeah, I could be a prosecutor, I could do that work, but let me create my own little path for myself. So, I'm sitting there first year in law school thinking to myself, like, okay, how can I take all this great knowledge that I'm learning in law school? How can I apply that? How can I, bring that out to the world to make a difference? The area of sexual misconduct, it's a pretty big area. It covers a lot of people and a lot of different, nooks and crannies. To go out and say, oh, I'm going to eradicate sexual misconduct, I mean, that's it's good, but it's a broad statement, and you're better served if you can narrow down to something. So I was Greek when I was an undergrad. I was a member of Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity, and I thought to myself, I'm like, no one really talked to us about sexual misconduct whenever I was an undergrad. I mean, now if something happened, they would come talk to us. They would talk all day if something happened, but no one really spoke to us, about this stuff unless something really went down. My mom didn't really talk to me about this stuff. No one in high school ever talked to me about this stuff. And no one, with the exception of like maybe a 45-second skit during orientation, no one really ever talked to me about this stuff in college. So I started thinking to myself, like, well, dang, what happens if I go out there and I start talking? Like, well, what happens? I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right? If I just start going out and talking to fraternities about this, I mean, maybe, a group might hear something I say, maybe I might change someone's mind. You never know. So that's what I started doing, man. In 2016, I got together with a couple of my friends from law school. We put this little group called Greek Law together, and we went out and started talking. But we did it in a very unique way. We did it very, universities, they come in and they want to be really by the book and using all their big terms, because I'll tell you, higher ed folks are pretentious, man. They're pretentious people. They want everyone to know how smart they are, and sometimes the message can get lost behind all that. But no, we just went out there like, look, I was in a fraternity, y'all are in a fraternity. I'm gonna talk to you just like I would talk to any of my other fraternity brothers. I'm gonna tell you these stories about consent just like I would tell you if we were sitting in a bar somewhere together. And what we came up with was a program that is educational yet entertaining at the same time. I like to joke around and tell people like, yo, I'm one part Chappelle, one part Obama when I'm up there. So so yeah, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna have a good time, but you're also gonna think, because this type of work doesn't have to be rigid or boring, and I try not to make it that.
My man Shobama. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Or Obel. That's right.
I like that. I like that. Yes, sir.
Oh man. But that's good though, and you're so right about that, especially with I guess it comes down to the fact that the lack of connection, because what you're doing with you and your buddies with this whole Greek law thing, like this program, talking to folks just straight up, like, hey, like if I was in a fraternity, I'm an alum, you're in a fraternity, like, hey, let's just chat like two guys here, like real human beings, as opposed to trying to just be so pretentious and showing off like, hey, I got this wonderful JD, I'm a doctor, let me throw some 10, 20, $100 words at you, and you probably thinking, man, I'm gonna scroll through this phone if this battery didn't die. Like, you're actually just trying to connect with people, and I love that, man. So with
Yeah.
that particular slant and really going for the true communication, the true connection route, what else has really helped you to better connect with really just college students in general, in addition to just combining the humor with the seriousness?
Um, you know, really trying to talk to students in their language. Really trying to, and I think you kind of walk a thin line when you do that. Now I'm 38 years old. I used to, when I started this, I was a little bit younger. I used to tell them, like, now, don't think of me as, the old man in the room. I'm just like your older brother. At this point, like, nah, I'm your dad. I'm certainly all my sons. So you got to walk a thin line between, because you don't want to like come across like you're being fake, like you're not being authentic. I'm a dad, so I'm used to not being cool. So I can bring that, and we can connect. When it comes to working with our men in general on campuses, one of the biggest hurdles and one of the biggest barriers that exist when it comes to teaching this stuff to men is, men, they don't like to feel like they're being attacked. And that's one of the things that kind of makes this taboo in some places, is that fellas, they hear, oh, sexual assault prevention, and then in their mind they think, oh, someone's just going to come and point their finger at us for an hour and tell us how bad we are. I'll tell you a quick little story. When I started this stuff out, that one of the first places that I went to was our Greek life advisor's office at U of L. And I told her what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it. And she told me the story of, one evening, the advocacy department on campus sent a student to talk to like an auditorium of like 700 or 800 fraternity guys. This student, she was like a junior, and she walks out on stage and walks up to the mic, and the very first words out of her mouth are, 1 in 4 of you in this room is a rapist. Let's talk about it. Now, her data is on point. I mean, because that's the statistic. I mean, she's just repeating the statistics that we all write about, and you'll find quoted in just about every article about collegiate sexual assault. So the statistics and the data is on point, but your delivery, like, you have successfully lost the entire crowd off one sentence. You have managed to unite this room. The problem is they all united against you. And anything you say from this point on is going to be met with anger and defensive fear. So obviously that didn't work. So, my goal is to try to approach them, and try to bring them to the front line with me, to let them know, like, hey, look, for all of you putting your hand up in the room saying, oh, that's not me, I don't do that. That's cool. That's great. Congratulations. Now I need you to walk with me, and I need you to come up to the front line with me so we can hold other guys accountable on this campus. It's not enough just to say, I don't do it. I need you up on the front line. And the best way to do that is to approach you like a potential ally, instead of coming and shaking my finger at you. So that's kind of, that has been the path to success so far.
I'm so glad you shared that story again on the show, man, because I heard that on Robert Foster Shut Up and Grind podcast. I'm like, man, that is public speaking 101. Like, yep, that's an attention grabber, but it ain't the right kind of attention. Like, you probably
Right.
could have brought Donald Trump up there and they would have cheered because she got off the stage.
Right. It's all about knowing your audience. Now, if she had went up and done that at a academic conference, filled full of a room of other academics, that would have played very well. But you're not in a room of academics. You're in a room of 18, 19, 20-year-old guys that don't want to be there in the first place. So if you go up there, you better say something good to get them to buy in the very beginning, because if not, it's about to be a long hour for you. So read the room.
To that, read the room. Read the freaking room. Like, put on a t-shirt, put on your forehead or something, man. Like, read the room whenever you communicate with somebody, especially in the audience, man.
Right.
Because that's what you're doing now and today. And my goodness, man, like, how have you been able to really pivot these past, well, I guess 2 years now, since this darn pandemic started, and it's kind of in this whole aggressive holding pattern, I guess is a way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, how have you been able to pivot with all of that nonsense going on, with just having that ready access, ready to students to speak in classes and whatnot?
March 2020, man, we were set for 2020. I mean, I had I had gigs here locally. I was going to get to go work with our med school at U of L. I was getting a chance to work with my first HBCU, Simmons College here in Louisville. But even outside of that, we had a game plan where, we were calling it the SEC takeover. And the game plan was that we were going to go speak at every single university in the SEC. So we had Mizzou on the books. We had Alabama booked. We had Auburn booked. We had some fillers down at the University of Florida. And the one thing that I was most excited about, we were going to go up to Dartmouth College, rather, in New Hampshire. And it was going to be my first little move to the Ivy League. So March was like jam-packed. And then COVID comes around the corner. And I probably, within a 3-day span, I got like probably 15 phone calls of cancellations from all of these groups. When you are running a program and the whole base behind it is going out and speaking to a live crowd, and the live crowd goes away, then you're kind of messed up. Like, so whenever I hear, musicians talking about like, oh man, not being able to tour for the last, year and a half, 2 years, almost killed me. Like, yeah, I get it, because that stopped a lot of movement that I was making. But the way that I was able to turn around is, it's like, okay, something bad has hit. Okay, well, let's find a way around it. Let's figure out something else to do. If my normal medium of public speaking has been cut off for the time being, we got to find a new medium. And I was lucky. One of my favorite professors of all time, Dr. Joanne Sweeney from the Louisville School of Law, she called me up and said, hey, we're starting an online legal journal. It's called I Taught the Law, and wanted to know if you wanted to write an article on it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing anything else. I'm just sitting here at the house chilling. Can't go outside. So yeah, might as well. So writing that one article, that's what got me started. Because, I try to do other things. I try to do like little online videos and try to go viral and stuff. And it just wasn't connecting for me. But when I wrote that article, people started picking it up, reading it. That turned into, well, hey, this first article hit. How would you feel about writing just a regular column on the blog? Sure, that's cool. Then the Leo newspaper, they picked that up and like, yo, why don't you come write that column for us? We'll give you money. I'm like, hey, bet, I'll take some cash for writing. So now I'm writing this column in this magazine that's being picked up from all points of our city, and it is being read all throughout the country. And now you're starting to see like, okay, that reach that I was going to have coming out and doing all these visits, now I have that reach through my pen. I realized that, man, one day I got an email, or no, it was a phone call. Someone left me a voicemail on my office phone, and it was this random guy from Philly. And I had written an article about female teachers having sex with underage students. And he had read the article in the Leo, and he himself was a victim of that type of sexual abuse. So he called me to say like, hey, look, you don't even have to call me back. I'm not trying to get a conversation started. I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you writing that article and, telling the story for people like me, because a lot of times we're ridiculed, we get talked down to. So it feels good seeing someone taking this stuff seriously and putting our story out there. So I'm like, okay, I got something with this writing. I got something with it. So yeah, man, we just had to, like I said, find a new medium, just get off on this exit, go down this road a little bit. And now things are opening back up. Now we'll be able to hop back on the highway. But now whenever I come to your school, I'm not just coming as, this crazy dude with this crazy idea. Now I'm coming to you as a best-selling author and an award-winning author. So, hey, it was meant to be. It was meant to be.
Amen to that. Meant to be is definitely right because yeah, with that wonderful story of really the way you're able to help that young man realize, man, this is good that the awareness is brought out there about it because somewhat of a running joke with guys when they hear those stories about the teacher molesting the kids when it's a female and a male situation. It's like, man, where were those teachers when I was growing up? Like, shoot, man, like sign me up. But the other problem is about that, it's like, hey, there's still a dark side to that that a lot of folks really don't consider because most times indeed it's just from a predatory situation where there's probably more times than not they weren't really the happy victim that you guys may jokingly say that they were at the time, man. So my goodness, it's good that you're able to really bring some light on to that really needs to be brought light upon because there's a lot of stuff that gets a lot of publicity, but there's some, I guess, in a way, darker topics and subjects that really need some light shown on them just like that so that way folks can be aware because guys get it too. It's not just the women. Like, of course, women's still going to get it, but the guys get it too.
Absolutely. One show that I tell everyone to check out, and I tell all of your listeners to check it out too. If you really want to see a really good show that captures the effect that stuff like that has on men, that can have on young men, there's a series called A Teacher. It came out on FX last year. It stars Kate Mara. You might remember her from uh, House of Cards. But it stars Kate Mara, and it's about that. It's about a young, attractive female teacher that gets into a relationship with an even younger male student, and it really does a good job showing, like, what both sides of that coin look like, what the issues that both sides of that coin go through. So it's about a 10 episode series. I think it's on Hulu right now. So it's definitely worth a watch for anyone that, kind of wants to follow up on that. But yeah, man, there are things that happen that doesn't get as much play as all the high fiving and the back slapping and everything. But that stuff is serious and it can mess people up.
Yes, indeed, you can say that again. So, any other topics you feel like may even need some more play, to be honest, out in the world? Because we got the whole Me Too movement, of course, you got the different groups of people advocating for rights for their groups of people and all this other stuff. Do you feel like there's some another subject or topic that needs to get a little more play nowadays on the airways, if not the online waves, that folks need to be aware about?
There's a chapter in my book that I wrote. Now, this a lot has happened to both these men since I wrote that chapter. But I wrote a chapter about Bill Cosby and R. Kelly, and I wrote about how difficult something like that is, especially if you are a Black man in our community. Because here are two Black men who, Bill Cosby a little bit more than R. Kelly, but that we put on the highest pedestals that we can. I mean, I grew up, I tell everyone I'm an 80s baby, but I'm a 90s kid. So by the time I started really checking stuff out, it was the Cosby Show. But it's interesting because depending on how old you are, like I remember Bill Cosby from the Cosby Show. My mom remembers Bill Cosby as the stand-up comedian. You know, I remember, every Monday running to the TV, at 8 p.m. on NBC and like, oh my gosh, there's a Black family on here. There's people that look like me. Later on in the 90s, A Different World. That was my first ever taste of college anything, watching these students at a Black college. I didn't even know there was Black colleges until that show came on. So you have someone who plays such a large role in your life and in your community. And then, R. Kelly, I mean, his music was the soundtrack of my undergrad. I still remember going to Atlanta the first time whenever Ignition came out, and you heard that song coming out of every Escalade that drove by. Like, his music has just been everywhere. So you have these two icons that have done horrible things, that have broken the law and hurt a lot of people. And so now you're kind of sitting in the middle and you're thinking like, man, like, yeah, that stuff is bad. But here's two of our icons, man. We ain't got that many of them to begin with. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to, they're trying to take our icons away. And it's like, look, don't let the, iconology blind you from the fact that you have two sexual predators that have been brought to justice. I think a lot of people still, even today, will speak up and say, oh, well, they're not really guilty. They were just trying to get set up. And what I try to say back to them, I was like, look, if you want to talk about Black men getting set up in the court of justice, I have a lot of stories that I can tell you. Now, it's not going to be as sexy as, an R&B star falling, or it's not going to be as exciting as a TV maven falling. But I mean, we just saw the story of the Central Park Five, on Netflix not that long ago. And here are 5 young men who had years of their lives stolen on the back of a false accusation. If you want to get really historic about it, Emmett Till lost his life due to a false accusation. So I'm with you. I'm totally with you whenever, we want to make this argument that Black men have been getting the shaft in the court of law behind false accusations for a long time. I just can't stand next to you if you're going to make R. Kelly and Bill Cosby the champion of your cause, because there are much better examples out there. And requirement number 1 is that you got to be innocent. So so I think that's something that's really topical right now, especially with R. Kelly kind of learning what his fate's going to be. And Bill Cosby, now he's a free man, but on a technicality. So I still hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm gonna keep on listening to R. Kelly's music. I can separate the art from the artist. And I'm like, nah, but you really can't. Not when the art is motivated by pedophilia. There ain't no separation. So yeah, man, we can talk about that a little bit more. How's that?
Yeah, you're definitely right. You're definitely right about that, man. Because especially when you say it like that, it's like, yeah, pedophilia. It's like, oh, disgusting. Get that freaking out of here. It's like, yeah, I definitely want them to be innocent. It's like, because you're right, like, especially with black icons, black male icons, we got so few. And it's like, man, like, don't take what we got. And then it's like, they got some dirt, some freaking real dirt, like a whole freaking continent of dirt. It's like, oh,
right.
I can't really defend that.
And if you're, and if you're innocent, or if you're interested in false accusations and Black men falling from false accusations, then I advise you to look at a group like the Innocence Project, who is doing fantastic work trying to, get people out of jail that don't deserve to be in there. So if you are really, really interested in that, and that's something that you really feel, connected to, look at the Innocence Project, see how you can volunteer, see, what you can give. And because they'll point you in the direction of some people that really need your attention because they are truly innocent. So, I think that's one. Another topic that needs to get more shine, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, is male victimhood. There is a misconception that men cannot be victims of sexual assault. I was speaking at a high school a few months ago, and I was doing some bystander intervention work for a group of high school freshmen. And it was towards the end of my presentation, and there was this little kid in the front row. Now you could tell just by the way he talked that he was the class asshole. So he raises his hand, and he says to me, Mr. Wilkerson, I don't even know why we're talking about this for. Girls aren't really getting raped that much. And I stopped and I looked up at the clock. I'm like, how much time do I got to destroy this kid? I'm like, dang, I only got about 2 minutes left. Daggone it. I'm like, sir, I don't have much time to go into it, but with all due respect, you couldn't be more wrong with that statement. So then he hits me with, okay, well, maybe it does happen to them a lot, but I'm not going to get it. The guys aren't getting raped like that. It would take a really big girl to sexually assault a guy. And I had to sit down and think about it for a second. I'm like, what does he mean by that? And then it hit me. Oh, okay, in your mind, the only way that a guy's going to get sexually assaulted is if it's by someone of the opposite sex. Okay. Well, in the words of my dear, sweet, Southern heavenly grandma, bless your heart. Bless your heart. I didn't think you could be any more wrong with the statement you said, but you proved me wrong. No, men get sexually assaulted too. The thing is, we have little cute names for it. See, men don't get sexually assaulted, but we'll hide it and we'll just call it hazing. We'll say, oh no, that's just hazing. One statistic that I talk about in the book is that hazing is the most reported form of sexual assault in our United States military today. Hazing that goes on between soldiers during off time. Athletic teams are really taking, a part in this as well. I won't get into any crazy details on the air. If you want to know more about it, read the book. But, athletic teams, especially the younger ones on the high school level, they are taking stuff to the extreme, but we hide it. We hide it under the guise of hazing. And I'm like, well, why can't we just call it what it is? I mean, it's sodomy, it's sexual assault, it's sexual battery and sexual abuse. Well, we hide it because, we're supposed to be men, right? We're supposed to be big, manly, burly men. And certainly big, manly, burly men, they don't get sexually assaulted, but no, it happens more times than you think. And then, like we talked about with the teachers earlier on, I mean, there's statutory sexual assault that's going on. I mean, there's a reason that you are not allowed to give consent if you're under the age of 18. There's a reason for that. So you see that happening as well. So, I feel like we need to be talking about male victimhood so we can normalize it. Because if it's normalized, then that's when we can work on it. And if it's normalized and you can understand that men can be sexually assaulted, then maybe you can learn how to show empathy for your fellow man. And if you can show empathy and you can listen and you can help and console your fellow man, well, guess what? You can also do that for your fellow woman as well. And now that I got you bought into the idea that sexual assault can happen to us, maybe you will care about it a little bit more whenever, your female cousin or your female coworker or the girl that's in that sorority that you hang out with comes to tell you something. Maybe you won't be as dismissive because you know that it can happen to you as well. So yeah, we need to normalize the conversation about male victimization.
Yeah, you can see that again. And to be honest, I feel like, even for me personally, I feel like that's one of the biggest gifts that this podcast has given to me and those who even listen. Because early in the show, I believe, like episode 12, had a guest, Altavice Pelzer, who actually went through her own sexual assault situation, and one of her daughters went through sexual assault too. And it was from folks that were close by, folks that were near them, like boyfriends and relatives. And it could even happen to the same with guys too. So, in addition to empathy with the aftermath, is there anything you recommend for a pathway forward once we get to a point where we can normalize the fact that, let's add this conversation to everything else that's going on? Any suggestions for, heck, even prevention, or even, I guess, salvaging what's left after the deeds are done?
The first thing that I think the first step that we have to take is we have to, as men, we have to put our egos aside. We have to leave our ego at the door, and we have to do self-reflection. Self-reflection is very difficult. Self-reflection can hurt because you go through and you have to think like, oh man, like, yo, that one time that I was driving down Broadway and I was hollering at some girl out the window, like, man, yo, was I in the wrong for that? Was I crazy for that? Like, well, what's the deal? The time that maybe I was at a club or at a party in college, and maybe I was a little bit too pushy with somebody. Like, man, like, what was up with that? Was I not doing the right thing there? Self-reflection is hard. But just like my man Charlemagne says, healing hurts. We got to be brave enough to face that and to put our egos to the side and do self-reflection. Once that self-reflection happens, we have to be able to open our ears and we have to be able to listen. There is a difference between hearing and listening. So we have to be able to listen we have to be able to listen to people. We have to be able to listen to each other, and we have to be able to listen to women as well. So I think that's the big step number 2. And then step number 3, man, we got to hold each other accountable. We really have to hold each other accountable. Whenever Me Too came out, there was like a little sub movement where guys got together and like, oh, well, hashtag not all men. Not all men do this. I don't do this. Hashtag not all men. That's great. Yeah, we're not saying that all men do that. That's fine. And if you are, someone who doesn't sexually assault people, that's cool. But the thing about it is that it is no longer enough to just say, I don't do that. That's not enough. Now you got to look at the people next to you, and you got to be brave enough to call them out whenever you see them wilding out. There's a website called eBaum's World. If you are of a certain age, eBaum's World. And from what I can tell, it's still up. I haven't heard anyone say anything about it in a long time, but there's a video on eBaum's World. If you Google creepy man follows girl in parking lot, there's this little quick video of this guy following this girl in a parking lot. It's in the middle of the day, so she's probably just getting Taco Bell or some Starbucks. It's this white girl wearing these yoga pants, and this guy's following her and it's like, yo, hey girl, like, man, like, where'd you get that ass from? Has anyone told you got a black girl's ass? Like, how you built like that? And like, she turns around and like, you can tell like she is shook. There's that nervous laughter, like, yo, what's this guy doing? And I know right now, as we speak, following people around with video cameras, I mean, that's commonplace now. But back then, this was not a normal thing. Very awkward video, about 30 seconds long. But here's the thing. I know what happened after that video because I'm a guy. I know that this dude probably took this video. He went back to his apartment. He had all of his boys over. He's like, yo, hey, I got to show you what I saw in the parking lot today. Oh, you ain't going to believe what I saw. And he showed him that video. And I'm sure his roommates and his friends, they were probably like, oh man, look at that ass on her. They gave him positive, affirmation on it, slapping high fives. And I'm sure that this dude probably did that again a few other times. I'm sure that the next time he was in the parking lot, he probably pulled his phone out and did that again. Because that's just the way it goes whenever you get positive affirmation and slaps on the back and handshakes. But what would have happened if those guys had looked at him and said, yo, dude, like, why are you being creepy for, man? Like, you following this girl around? Like, she clearly doesn't want you talking to her. Like, what's going on? Like, don't be like that, dude. Don't be a creep. Like, what would happen if his boys approached him like that? I'm not going to say shaming him, but at least letting him know that what he was doing is not cool. Maybe he'll think twice before he follows someone in a parking lot again with the phone out. So we got to be able to check each other. You know what I'm saying? We have, and look, if you are, I feel like, a black male, you know all about getting checked. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we used to call it getting G checked, because it
Yep.
was always someone that was a little bit older than us. Our OGs would come and they would check us when we were wilding out. And all you could do at that point was just stop what you were doing and listen to what that older person was telling you and straighten it up. So we gotta, normalize G check, and again, we need to bring that back and use that all across the board when we hear a coworker, making an off-color comment, or a fraternity brother that's about to mess up, or something like that. We've got to hold each other accountable. And I think if we are able to take those steps, then that's how this whole Me Too movement continues to press on and continues to to have an effect. But it's on us fellas.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Normalize G checking, baby. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Normalize it, indeed. Got to bring that back. Like, maybe have less stupid idiots on the internet if if that was normalized again.
One could only hope. Bro, I've seen videos of people licking toilet seats. I'm like, man, what are y'all Gen Z, y'all are wild. Like, what's going on? Y'all here licking toilet seats on TikTok. I can't believe it, but maybe I should. People drink, eat Tide Pods. Remember that when they were eating the
Oh
Tide
God.
Pods?
Oh God,
So,
no.
where's your OGs at? OGs, we need to step up.
Yeah, I can say that again. I forgot all about the Tide Pods. My God. Like, don't give people free time. My goodness.
No. It's wild.
Oh man. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time you're in the current year and you still got all your knowledge, wisdom, and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
If I'm 25 again, the advice that I'm going to give to myself is, it's going to connect for you. It may not connect when it connects for other people. You are not going to blossom when the people around you are going to blossom. You are going to work a few more really bad jobs. You are going to have a relationship that falls apart in the most fantastic and spectacular way. It is going to break you. You are going to have friends right now at 25 that in 10 years you will not even be on speaking terms with. You're going to go through it, but go through it, because you're going to come out on the other side and you're going to be stronger for it. You're going to be able to understand that you're going to be able to handle things that you, right now, if I told you what you had to handle, you wouldn't believe that you could go through it and you could do it. But you're going to do it. It's going to strengthen you. So don't compare yourself to other people. Don't compare yourself to the people next to you. Don't compare yourself to your friends. They are on their own path. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their journey's been. Yeah, this social media thing, I know this is new and cool right now, but you're not seeing the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. You're not seeing the work that goes in. You're only seeing the highlights. So don't compare your life and base your life on that. Do you follow your path? Be fearless in following your path, and I promise you, it's going to connect. In the meantime, be happy for the people around you that are succeeding now, because when it's your time to succeed, you're going to want them to show you that same love and that same positivity on the other side. So show it to them now, and it will be reciprocated whenever it's your turn. And I promise your turn is coming.
Oh, mic drop, baby. That's what I'm talking about. That's right. From two-time double TEDx speaker, baby. Double champion, baby. That's right. That's
You
right
know it.
indeed.
You know it. There's no such thing as a late bloomer. Everybody's on their, their own time. So, as long as you pushing, you ain't losing. So, keep it moving. Keep it moving.
That's what I'm talking about. As long as you pushing, you ain't losing. That's what I'm talking about. So for those who need to push themselves on the way to your website, your social medias, and push that buy button like a good 777 times, what's the best way for folks to do so and keep up with all the stuff that the Dr. Double J is doing?
So follow me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram as the Title Nine guy. Nine is spelled with the Roman numeral IX. So the Title Nine guy. When you go to that Instagram, I got my little link tree in the bio, and that link tree is going to take you to everything. It's going to take you to, my current TED Talk that I have up. It's going to link you to my current articles. I got a few conferences that I'm going to be speaking at, and these are conferences, right now we're still kind of in this little weird, this weird digital world. So these are conferences that you can log into, and you can, get on Zoom and watch from all around the country. So you can register, and you can do that through the link tree. And then, of course, my book, The Title Nine Guy, is available right now. You can find it on Amazon. Just type in The Title Nine Guy; it's going to come up. Grab yourself a copy. I'd like to think that there's a little something in there for everybody, regardless of whether you're a student or a parent, or just an everyday Joe. I wrote that book for all parties involved. So grab yourself a copy of it on Amazon. The Title Nine Guy on Amazon, the Title Nine Guy on Instagram.
Woohoo! There you go, the Title 9 guy indeed, baby, for 9 titles, baby. 999,999 titles, baby. That's right.
That's right.
That's
We're coming for all the rings. All the rings.
That's right. All the rings, baby. That's right. More than Tom Brady, MJ, Kobe, RIP combined, baby. That's right. And Bill
Yes.
Russell combined, baby. That's
Right.
right.
We ain't coming for not one championship, not two, not three, not four, not five. We won them all. So slowly but surely, we're going to get there together.
That's right. Gonna put some rings on some toes, baby. That's right. Gonna bedazzle some toes.
You already know. You already know.
Oh my goodness. Well, any parting words before we close up shop, my friend?
Man, just thank you for having me on and giving me this, this medium and this opportunity, to continue to bring this good work to the people out there. If you're listening out there right now, think of, think of where you're at, and think of what you can do to kind of step up to the front line, because that's what we need to do at this point. We need as many fellas on the front line as we possibly can. So think about what you can do to step on that front line. And then once you're there, think about what you can do to reach back and pull the next person up on the front line as well. And that's how we're going to be able to do it.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast to do something that'll take yourself to the next level. And for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network, so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best.